Hello and welcome to Devil's Advocate and the second part of a special interview with the Human Resource Development Minister Kapil Sibal on the Lokpal Bill and the critical differences between the government and Anna Hazare. Kapil Sibal, let's in this second interview take up the key critical question about the judiciary. Should it be within the ambit of the Lokpal Bill? Many people believe that the government is against that. Is that the case?
No, first
and if
of all,
so, why?
Let's be clear. I think we should have a law, whether it's a Lokpal or some other law, under judicial accountability, which makes the judiciary accountable, not in the present form, but in a different way.
That everyone accepts.
So we all accept that. Now the question is, should it be in the Lokpal or should it be under a Judicial Accountability
What's your answer?
Act? My answer is that it should not be in the Lokpal.
Why?
I'll tell you a fundamental reason. Let's assume the Lokpal has control over the judiciary in terms of investigation and prosecution. And assume in a given case it files a case, the prosecutor of the Lokpal files a case against an accused. And the judge doesn't agree with the Lokpal on that particular case, both in terms of substance and even on bail. The judge will always be worried that I'll be investigated by the Lokpal if I disagree. Right?
So there could be a factor of intimidation.
No, it is against the substratum of all we stand for.
Plus there is circularity of authority.
Yeah. You can't give that authority a power of the judiciary when the judiciary has to be independent of every authority.
So this is a good reason why the judges need to come under a separate bill,
Yes,
not the Lokpal.
Not the Lokpal.
Now, at the moment,
because the prosecutor will control both the judge as well as the fate of the case, and the judge will be worried.
Now, at the moment, there is a Judicial Standards and Accountability Bill which is in front of Parliament.
Yes.
But the problem with that bill is it doesn't address corruption up front. The closest it comes is misbehavior, which, as you will accept, is only at best a tangential and indirect way of covering
That's
corruption.
why we told the members of the Lokpal that you give us your suggestions and we will attempt to incorporate those also in that judicial accountability.
I want to get you to repeat this because it's quite important. You have told the Anna Hazare team to give you their suggestions which you will incorporate into the judicial
Not will
bill.
incorporate, that we will look at those suggestions and then we will see if we can incorporate, if they are acceptable to us, incorporate in the judicial accountability.
So in
bill.
fact you are extending
Yes.
the license or liberty or rights given to these people,
Right.
not just to affecting Lokpal legislation but the judicial accountability
Not rights.
legislation.
They can give us suggestions as anybody can give us suggestions informally, and we'll see if we can actually accommodate.
And the bottom line of this is that you are open to amending the judicial accountability
Yes.
bill to include corruption specifically.
Of course, we are very, see, point is we are very sincere in our effort to deal with these issues.
Let me raise a second area where the Anna Hazare team believes there is a critical difference between the Judicial Accountability Bill as it stands at the moment and the Lokpal. That is over the question who would give sanction for a judge to be investigated. Under your Judicial Accountability Bill, it would come from the judge's colleagues and friends sitting in the same court who, because they know him, could seek to protect him. Let me finish, then you answer. Under the proposed Jan Lokpal Bill, that sanction would come from a 7-member bench that would be independent of the judge and therefore impartial.
Why is it independent of the judge?
Because it doesn't concern his colleagues, it doesn't concern his friends.
Correct, but then you will be controlling the Supreme Court of India and the various high courts in the state.
But surely the solution is to change the sanction mechanism in the Judicial Accountability Bill.
Exactly.
Can you change it?
Well, why not?
So you're open to that?
We are, of course, open to that. We are open to anything that makes the system more accountable, the judiciary more accountable. We are very keen that the judiciary should be made more accountable.
So it seems to me...
But it can't be, unless you bring the judiciary into the Lokpal, we'll go on fast. It can't be that unless you do this, we will abuse you. That's not acceptable.
In other words, fasting is not a mechanism or a way of pressurizing during a negotiation.
If Anna Hazare were in the Constituent Assembly, who drafted the Constitution, there would have been no Constitution. Because look at the differences.
Either there would have been no Constitution or Anna Hazare would have fasted to death. Both possibilities are open.
The point I'm making is that look at the divergences.
I take your point. Let's not
please let me complete, Karan. There was so much divergences of opinion in the Constituent Assembly, but we had a wonderful document, and what did the Constitution makers say? You can have a wonderful document, ultimately it depends on the people who work it.
I accept the point you're making, but I want to sum up what we've discussed so far over the judicial accountability versus Lokpal issue regarding judges. You personally and the government perhaps as a whole believes that the judicial accountability bill is a better way of handling judges,
yes.
But you are open to amending that bill to make it more stringent, A, to include corruption, and B, possibly to change the sanction mechanism so that the Anna Hazare team feels that it's a more adequate way of handling corruption in the judiciary.
Have a more effective sanction mechanism.
Okay. Let's then come to the second big issue that is also an apparent sticking point, whether MPs, and I'm talking about their voting and their speaking within Parliament, if it is a subject of controversy concerning corruption or bribery, should be under the ambit of the Lokpal. On that issue, what's the government's position?
Government's position is clear, that it should not be under the ambit of the Lokpal. What happens inside the House, our Speaker and the House should deal with it. We're very clear on that.
So here you have a clear position.
Yes.
Unlike on the PM issue, where you were open to being persuaded, as you said in interview 1, here you have a clear position.
I said we are open to, you know, different ways of handling that issue.
Absolutely, but here you have a clear position.
Yes, absolutely.
No MPs must not be included.
No, MPs are included, but for their conduct on 2 issues, voting and speech.
They should not be part of the Lokpal.
Article 105(2) of the Constitution protects them. And if there is any corrupt practice with reference to both voting and speech, it should be dealt with, must be dealt with, through an effective mechanism, but within the House and by the House.
And not under the Lokpal.
Not under the Lokpal.
Now, let me put to you the riposte that the Anna Hazare team would give. They've actually sent it in their letters to Pranab Mukherjee and the Prime Minister. They pointed out that at several times in India's 63, 64-year independent history, MPs have been accused of corruption, bribery for voting, bribery for asking questions, and although on occasion a few have been expelled, never has a single MP been charged, prosecuted and convicted on corruption. And they feel it's essential that that must happen, and they feel it will only happen if MPs are brought under the Lokpal.
We also feel it must happen, and it must happen through the House, and it has already happened. Remember the last time cash was displayed? The Speaker has referred it to an investigating agency.
But it hasn't got much further.
No, why? It's being investigated.
Well, it's being, that's the point. That is
Well, let's be clear. Let's be clear on that.
It's taken 3 years and the police investigation
that's fine.
That's
fine. There are lots of cases which take 3 years. That should be expedited. That should be dealt with. You should have a mechanism. But there is no way we'll allow the Lokpal to investigate.
Well, let me put the riposte to that Anna's team makes. And again, they made it.
Let me
ask the question, then you reply. Anna's team has riposted to that in their letters to Pranab Mukherjee and the PM. They said that almost 3 years have passed since the incident of 2008. The police are still investigating. And they say that one reason why that investigation is slow is because the police comes under the UPA. They say if the investigation was conducted by the Lokpal, by now it would have concluded, prosecutions would have followed.
Absurd. I think that's, again, this is all polemics, that it comes under the UPA as if we are controlling every investigation under this country.
So this is absurd.
I don't understand
You're
this.
saying this is
absurd for the simple reason. There's an allegation made against one of the members. One expert committee report said one thing, another expert committee report said another thing. The UPA is in power. How did then 2 agencies say 2 different things? So let's not... See, this is all polemics.
Let's then come out of polemics. And
what we need is an effective mechanism within Parliament to deal with misconduct with those 2 issues.
What steps are you taking to ensure that that effective mechanism within Parliament happens?
We will take steps, and we are taking steps.
What?
We can say...
What?
Well, we can ensure a mechanism within the House that the sanction will be given the moment the Ethics Committee comes to the conclusion that there is a criminal offence that has been committed. And that sanction...
But have you taken steps to ensure that?
The fact that on the last occasion both Somnath Chatterjee referred this matter straight away to the investigating agency shows that there are steps in place.
Let me sum up this discussion.
And there is a constitutional amendment. Remember this.
I understand.
That will require another constitutional amendment.
And a constitutional amendment is one that you don't have the votes to secure. I understand. Let me sum up what we've discussed so far, both in the first half of this interview as well as in the earlier part 1 that was shown on Saturday. You have a fairly clear position, but you have differences that are key, or lack of agreement, which is also key, over concept, over the PM, over the judiciary, and a sharp difference over treatment of MPs. Arvind Kejriwal, in response to these differences, publicly said that what the government is interested in is not a Lokpal, but a Jokpal. Prashant Bhushan has been kind. He says he only wants something that's symbolic, not substantive. How do you respond to that judgment on you?
You really wish me to respond, Karan?
I do.
Well, I don't wish to respond to remarks like this. If they are serious about negotiations, they better come to the table and negotiate and stop all this.
You mean that?
I mean that.
That sounds like
this abuse, this insult should stop. It's time to be serious about a law which both want and which the country needs. The country is tired and sick of corruption. Let's be serious about giving the country a strong Lokpal bill. And the way forward is not abuse. The way forward is not to trivialize it by calling it a joke pal.
Kapil Sibal, let's take a break at that point. When I come back in the remaining few minutes of this special interview, I want to approach the whole subject differently, or as I tantalizingly said at the end of part one, perhaps deviously. I want to ask whether the government made a critical mistake conceding to a joint drafting committee. And has the government mishandled fasts unto death? Do you need to rethink how you handle such tactics? That's in a moment's time. See you after the break. Welcome back to the last part of this special two-part interview with Human Resource Development Minister Kapil Sibal. Kapil Sibal, let's approach this whole issue differently. Did the government make a critical mistake conceding a joint drafting committee on the Lokpal?
Well, I don't think in the circumstances it was a mistake.
Let me tell you why people think it is a mistake. You, the government, are elected to rule in the name of the people. You have a mandate to make laws. Anna Hazare and his team are not elected. Some people say they are self-selected, but by placing them in the joint drafting committee, first of all, you place them on par with the government. Was that sensible?
Well, you know, quite frankly, as nations move forward and circumstances change, we need to have a change of attitude as well. So in the circumstances that the government was in at that point in time, I don't think it was a mistake to include them in the
it's very
draft.
interesting.
But I don't think it should be a precedent.
Well, it's very interesting. A, you say it shouldn't be a precedent, and B, you say in the circumstances. You're justifying it because of the circumstances. But let me put this to you. You have given people who have no elected mandate, people who are probably self-selected, a right in determining, influencing or advising how legislation happens. No. That is a prerogative of Parliament and the government. How do civil society members come in?
That always happens. For example, assuming they were not part of the Lokpal drafting committee, they would still be entitled to come to Parliament and give their views before the standing committee, and they would still be entitled to be heard.
Absolutely.
And their views would be considered.
But that's not where they're stopping. This is why I asked the question. They're not advising, they're not criticizing, they're insisting that what they want should happen.
There is no... See,
they
look,
are
it's
now
for us to
suggesting
decide.
a referendum as a way of overtaking the government's opposition. They're threatening further fasts unto death.
Well,
you've given them a platform for which to do it.
Quite frankly, we are at the moment concerned with the drafting of the Lokpal bill. Any other measure outside the drafting, if they take, will be dealt with.
Except for the fact that you provided them the platform to take those measures.
I don't think we've provided them the platform. I think they have the platform. There is free speech in this country. But the fact of the matter is that situations like this should be carefully looked at.
In fact, the truth is that this platform wasn't first provided to Anna Hazare and his team. It was actually first provided almost 5 years ago to the NAC. There you have a group of people who are unelected, who have no great representation behind them, and yet they were drafting bills. Recently, they've drafted the Commonwealth Violence Bill. Earlier, they did the RTI. They've done the Right to Food Bill. In fact, the Right to Food Bill is even influencing the way the government determines its bill. Yet they have no mandate from anyone.
Well,
you set the precedent with the NAC.
There's nothing wrong with that. I think that we should hear the voice of civil society. We are willing to hear the voice of civil society. But the members of the NAC don't go to Jantar Mantar on a fast. Thank God for that. And therefore, there is a big distinction between the two. They give us inputs that they get from civil society, and they help us draft legislations. There's nothing wrong with that. We love inputs from civil society.
What happens now when they insist on a referendum because they can't reach agreement? What happens if they go back on a fast?
I don't think they don't understand what a referendum is.
But they seem to be carrying sizable sections of the country with them. That's the problem for you.
Is there anywhere in the world there's a referendum on a bill?
But the problem
is...
Do
they know what the meaning of referendum is?
The point you're forgetting is they're carrying sizable sections of the country with them. I don't think so.
You think that 5,000 people, maximum 5,000 people in the country gathered in a crowd is 1.2 billion people?
The media was almost entirely behind Anna Hazare. That's why the government panicked.
The media has its own role to play, you know that. Okay. Let me not say much about the media on this issue.
Let's come to a second issue that's connected with the first. Does the government, in the light of the way you've handled Anna Hazare's fast, earlier Baba Ramdev's fast, and I include into that Chandrasekhar Rao's fast over Telangana in 2009, do you need to rethink how you handle future fasts unto death? And remember, Anna Hazare may be launching another one on August the 16th.
We'll see. I don't want to comment on that. We'll see. As and when that happens, we will see.
No, I'm not asking you how you handle it. I'm asking you whether you learn critical lessons about handling it.
Don't worry about it. The government is looking at the situation and will be on top of the situation.
I'll tell you why people do worry about it, because in fact there were 3 fasts that UPA2 has had to handle. Chandrasekhar Rao in December 2009, Anna Hazare in April this year, Baba Ramdev in June this year. And in all 3 instances, the government panicked. And in all 3 instances, with hindsight, the government now will accept, even if not in public, that its initial response was wrong. Can you learn from that?
No, don't worry about it. We all learn. We all learn as democracy moves forward. We all learn when we legislate. We all learn when we make decisions on the executive side. In my ministry, every day is a learning process. We all learn. And with the experience that we have, we deal with future issues. So I don't think the people of this country should be worried.
When you say we all learn, are you therefore accepting that you made mistakes?
No, I say we all learn at every stage. I'm not accepting anything. You can't put words in my mouth. I'm accepting nothing. I say learning is a wise way of moving forward. Okay, we will move forward. Don't worry about it, and the people of the country should not be concerned.
Let me quote to you what B.R. Ambedkar said in November 1949. He said that the time has now come for civil disobedience, for satyagrahas, for fasts unto death to be forgotten.
Absolutely.
He called them the grammar of anarchy.
Absolutely.
Do you agree with him?
No, I certainly say that fasts are not meant to be used. See, fast is a process of self-purification. It's not meant as an act of aggression. Unfortunately, people have misunderstood, including Anna Hazare, as to what the real meaning of a fast is.
There were fasts in the 60s. Poti Sri Amalu fasted. There were fasts at the end of the 60s. Darshan Singh Perumal fasted. The government of the day was strong enough to say to them, if you fast unto death. If you die, you die. And both died.
This happened in England as well.
Absolutely. Bobby Sands and
Bobby
Mrs. Thatcher.
Sands,
do you have the courage and the strength to behave the same way?
Wait and watch, Karan. Why do you want me to respond to these issues when it's all speculative?
Wait and watch.
Yes. What you are saying is speculative.
That suggests that next time round there is a fast unto death, the government's behavior and response will be different.
I never said anything like that. I said wait and watch.
But no one waits and watches.
The government will respond in the way that's appropriate as and when such a thing happens. This question is entirely speculative.
I'm not sure whether you're being strong or whether you're just wheedling out of giving an answer, or whether you're being glib with words.
I've given you an answer. If you don't understand it, the meaning of it, then it's up to you.
So the answer is wait and watch.
The answer is wait and watch.
The problem is the country is waiting and watching.
Don't worry, the country will watch.
All right, Kapil Sibal, the country will watch, the country will observe, and let's hope this time around the country says the government did the right thing. My thanks to you for agreeing to this special 2-part interview.
Thank you.
And if you have been, thanks for watching. Goodbye. Good night.